Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron.
Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
Take out away.
Yeah, that's my take on what's yours.
Protonic Reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It's a scientific fact. We're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. And additionally, welcome to it. Tonight's special episode. It's a guy I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. Mike Kunka from godheadSilo, Enemymine, Smoke and Smoke, Dead Low Tide, so many different bands. And we will get right to him right after I read this robotic spiel that doesn't feel normal at all for me to be reading off yet. Welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer who has toured and recorded for over 22 years. Most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and he's the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect. Folks that may or may not be household names, but do something very special. This is episode 298. If this is your first time listening to the show, all the archives are at protonicreversal.com and are always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. If you'd like to support the show and get episodes sooner, you can give $1 a month to patreon.com/protonicreversal. And if you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to share it along, like, subscribe, or post a review. All that helps people find the show. And it's just a darn nice thing to do. It really is. So there you go. That was a little ado. So without further ado, let's talk right now to Mike Kunka. How you doing, man? Oh, let me unmute you. There you go. That's better. So good to see you. Are you with us? Everything okay? Are you glitching? Are you making a glitch record? What's happening?
I can glitch. I'm sorry. Am I glitching? Sorry.
You're glitching just
in the wood.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
okay.
it looks like you're in a cabin, so like it's I don't know if that's true or not.
I built it. Yeah. So in a cabin, sorry, this is what you get. You live in the woods. If I'm gonna glitch too much, I might be able to head somewhere else to get better internet. But
it seems to have gotten better. So we'll take it. We'll take it.
Well, see. Sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be the judge of that. Yeah, exactly. So great to have you, man. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on the show.
Sure.
I was listening the other day to Skyward and Triumph and thinking how absolutely gloriously beautiful and what a statement of purpose and intent to a certain degree the Guardians of the Threshold is.
That's a super long. That's
a really long one. Yeah, the one that just is it's like an entire mood, as the kids might say. And that was one of the first godheadSilo songs that I heard, actually, and I was like, "Wow, these guys! what are they up to? This is crazy." That is a band that when you talk to true heads, like either folks that knew the band or saw the band way back when, you get an outsized reaction, a positive one. Like you get people are just like, "Wow, Godhead, they're amazing. They did it." Did it feel like?
Tried it. Yeah, we tried to do it.
I think so. I mean,
did it?
did you do it? No. did you do
I
you
don't- we
feel
did
like
something.
do you feel like the legacy of godheadSilo, do you like you made some records, have you influenced some
Mhm.
bands, were good times
Sure.
were had, like we laughed and laughed? I mean, what
Mhm.
could tell me about when you think about when someone brings up godheadSilo?
Oh, it depends who brings it up, I guess. Like um, my current life, I feel like I've lived like 20 different lives in that one. And in my current life, nobody really knows that I did that.
Right.
So, like in my work life, and it helps me to not have to explain it to people that wouldn't understand. I, I, because I'm super, super proud of it, right? So like talking to you about it is really awesome because you know what it is.
Yeah.
But so I work in a school, and like if the lunch lady, like I'm not gonna talk to the lunch lady about Skyward and Triumph like that. It would take too much explaining, and if she were to then hear that song,
Yeah.
it wouldn't make sense. That's not who I made it for. So it it's like I think it was Gene Smith uh, told me one time, somebody was asking her like, well, how would you describe your music to my aunt? She's from Mecca Normal. She's like, I
Oh,
wouldn't.
sure. Yeah.
I
Gene
didn't
from
make it
Economic.
for her. Like I didn't make it for her. Yeah, like I didn't make it for her, and that changed my whole thing. Where it's like I had this life that was really, really cool and important to me, but I don't have to share it with people who wouldn't understand it. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it was like took me a while to get to that point where I'm like that meme or whatever where the guy's standing in the corner of the party and he's saying, these guys don't even know I have a big turbo in my car, whatever. Look at the other direction. That's really me. I'm like, these people don't understand who I am or what I'm capable of.
Right.
But I also never tell anybody. So I just expect people to figure it out by looking at me. And then once I got over that or past that, not over, past, and realized like, yeah, the people that like it or find it still. And if they want to find me, I mean, I know I probably have a reputation of hiding out in the woods and stuff, but you can find me. Like I'm fine to be
Yeah.
person. You found me. It took 4 years. It only took 4 years.
Took me a bit. I might find yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think about godheadSilo. Like, I mean, we talk about all this stuff and all these bands, and I just was so lucky to make friends with the people that I was and be in bands with people who really truly care about and still care about. Dan and I, we were friends we started being BMX buddies in like 1985.
Wow.
And yeah, and it only met because I rode my bike past his house by accident. I was completely lost. Past his house by accident. This big chased down. It was like, hey, meet us here tomorrow at noon or whatever. And I was like, oh, if I can find my way back, sure. And then I met him, and it was like, yeah. I mean, I think I was 4. Yeah, so 85. I was 14. He was 12 or 13. And we just, I mean, we're still really. I mean, he's the best friend I'll ever have and ever had, and we were lucky that part of the shit we got into got to make records, because we were making mischief.
more mischief based, music based.
We were making a living off of. Yeah, we were being idiots anyway together, and we were lucky to figure out to play music together, and
yeah,
I mean, if people like it, that's awesome. I liked it, and Dan liked it. And like at that time, that was pretty much what was important,
What was there a moment or band that kind of made you think, I want to play. I want to try to make noises like this. I want to try to make noises in a similar capacity or fashion that this does. Like, was there a band that kind of put you down that path? Band or bands?
I mean, so as a kid, I can remember was always really into music, like a little kid, like 5, 6 years old. But I can remember thinking there's a sound out there for me.
Right.
I don't know what it is. And I remember seeing this, it was like a K-Tel commercial, and it had an Anne Marie song on it called Walk Right Back to Me This Minute, Bring Your Love to Me, Don't Send It. But they only played the part that goes, walk right back this minute. And I'm like, ooh, the walk right back, that part. That's what I want. I want a whole record that's just that.
Just that part.
But I was like, yeah, but I was like 7 years old or 8 years old, and I went and bought that record at a flea market, and like, oh no, Anne Marie, that's not it. Like, I just want that one part, like, skate. So I knew there was punk rock sounds or whatever for me, but I didn't know. I mean, I was living in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, 50 miles from the nearest record store. And I was lucky enough to have this cousin, my cousin Pat Barry, dude. He was a skater in Fargo, and he was really into music. And we would go to his house for like Thanksgiving and stuff. And I would tape his records. Like, I could never afford to buy records, but I would. Yeah. So I would just tape that records. So I would end up with crazy shit, like minor threat on one side, and like charge GB8 on the other side, and those would be my records for the year, right?
Right.
So I didn't hear a difference between charge GB8, like straight edge and big women, or whatever. It was like I didn't know the difference. I just knew I'm more like a textural person. Like, I really like to feel music and feel sound. And then once I started figuring that stuff out, I never really thought I would play music. I was really into, I skated, did an IMX. I listened to a lot of different stuff. And then when I went to college in 1989, I saw this band called, they're called The Floored, which was most of the guys from Hammerhead. They played at our college, and me and my buddy Andrew were the only people there. And I was just like, I'd never heard or seen anything in person, because the towns I lived down, like 42 people in them, and we lived 20 miles outside that town or whatever. I was not gonna see punk rock bands ever.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it was not gonna happen.
Yeah, so I saw them, and the guy, so Paul Sanders, who is the guitar player in Hammerhead, was the bass player in Floored. He said, like, oh, somebody please buy me an ice cold Coca-Cola Classic. And so I ran up to the soda machine, bought a Coke, gave it to him. He took a drink, set it on his amp, and like hit a note, and it just went boop, 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 boop.
Whoops.
Somebody please buy me ice cold Coca-Cola Classic. And I was like, yeah. And I was so stoked. We did it like 4 times. And I just thought, like, I can't explain like what an impression that made on me. And then like a year later, he sat in front of me in like a film studies class then, and I was just like, oh my God, that's the bass player from Floored. Like, I get starstruck really easily, and I was just like, whoa. And I got somebody to introduce me to him, and he was like, yeah, you should come to my house and get an amp. Like, I'll show you. I was like, to do what? Like, you play bass. I was like, what are you talking about? And I went to his apartment, and he gave me an amp and a cabinet, and I don't know. Like, I had my friend Andrew show me how to hold a pick.
That's
yeah.
wow.
But eventually, so eventually needed. So actually, like Floored, there's all this Minneapolis shit that comes up. So like Floored got, I think the Cows saw Floored, and asked Floored to come to Minneapolis to open for him or something like that. Like the guitar player Andy couldn't make it because he had to work.
Okay.
And they had all these other bands. They had, I think one was called December's Children or something, and Floor and Hammerhead was basically like the same 3 or 4 people with rotated instruments.
Mhm.
And so they just went as Hammerhead instead of Floor. And then they were like, I'm sure probably Hazelmeyer saw them at that show, and then that's when that all started. But to practice for those shows, they didn't have a practice spot. So they practiced in my mom's basement. And so so I sat there, and like I said, I mean, you can tell if you ever saw any of my bands live, like I like really loud music because I like to feel it, and having Hammerhead practice in my mom's basement for like 2 weeks straight or whatever it was, I'd just sit on the floor like in the middle of it, and it was that. I mean, I talk about life-changing moments. I was just like, I want to feel this always. Like, if I could be in a permanent state of that moment, I still like Hammerhead, godheadSilo and Hammerhead played together like 6 years ago, and I just was crying and just like, like, there's something about their sound that is just. I can't listen to it anymore because it makes me really upset because I have a lot of feelings like attached to like nostalgic anxiety or whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but if I listen to that music, it's like painful. It's sad.
Really?
But man, I love that, man. Yeah, Hammerhead, super important part of. And just the greatest thing to ever come out of North Dakota. I mean,
pretty iconic.
I don't know. Well, and like for real out of nowhere, right? So like you have Hammerhead, which was all that shit was like pre Nirvana, so like pre 91.
Sure.
When Nirvana happened, it changed being a rural punk. So pre Nirvana being a rural punk, your next person who might know who 7 Seconds was or Mothra was probably 50 miles away from you, and there was probably one of them, and they were also getting the shit kicked out of them for the music.
Yeah, it wasn't cool. Right? It wasn't cool to be.
No. Yeah, and so after Nirvana hit, it became easier to be rural punks, and like out of my high school, there's a bunch of rad artists and musicians, and they came out like 3 grades below. I mean, the school has like 90 people in it total, and tiny town, North Dakota, and there's all this talent there that probably wouldn't have found punk rock if Nirvana hadn't like eased it so that people could have blue hair or mohawks or whatever. But so Hammerhead, they were ahead of that. So they were playing shows in this college town, Moorhead, Minnesota, and like getting pitchers of beer poured on their head. Like it's real punk, like getting in fights over what kind of music you're playing. Like it's
or how dare you make
yeah. Oh yeah, we got some of that too. But we were also like we were after, right? Like we weren't. So there's a lot of really cool music in Fargo and Moorhead, and none of it, like the path was truly paved by Hammerhead and their group of friends, which I kind of got into, but like I'm the baby, you know what I mean? Like I'm like 2 or 3 years younger, and like just showed up like, hey, I love music. Let's practice my mom's house, you know?
I mean, that was basically me in Bay Area. Like, you know, I was class behind steel.
Yeah, for sure.
All that. So like, and I was like, hey guys, how's it going? You know?
Yeah. But lucky, you know, like I said, got really lucky to be a part of it and be so close to it, you know.
Yeah.
Ended up forming a band with, so my first band was called, I noticed you didn't have it on the list, but it's called Butt Chuck. And Butt Chuck.
I don't actually know that one. I thought I knew them all, but I guess I didn't know that one.
They're fine. Butt Chuck, actually, so it was me on bass, Paul Erickson from Hammerhead. He played drums, and he's an amazing drummer. And
so I hear,
guy Paul Winter, who was Paul Winter was in Fireballs of Freedom. Do you know Fireballs of Freedom?
Of course. Yes. Yes, I do.
So Paul Winter, so like we all ended up like going to, like, something better than Butt Chuck. Hard to believe, but yeah, Butt Chuck was awesome. That it was awesome. It was so much fun. Like, Butt Chuck was so much fun. Somebody gave Winter the tapes. There was like, we made a 4-track tape and we made a movie. That was really cool. Like a concert video. And because we figured out we could rent the Moose Lodge for, it was like $50 or something.
Right. That opens up a whole different world, right? Yeah. That's great.
You talk like North Dakota, kids just want something to do. Like, the band doesn't have to be good. Like, it doesn't have to be any good.
It's a bonus
the kids to come out.
Not necessary at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would play at the Moose Lodge for $3 or $5 or whatever, and it would always be Butt Chuck and Hammerhead together because we shared a practice spot, we shared equipment, we shared members, and like 200 people would come out.
Nice.
It'd be like, yeah. And for the longest time, that was it. Like, that's like, why would you strive to do anything beyond that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was.
That sounds great now. Like, can I go do that next week?
Totally. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Dan from godheadSilo at the time, he wasn't playing music. He never plays it. He was doing this really long-running fanzine called Burnt Toast that we kind of started together when, like, in 1986 or so. I had a poem on the cover was a poem about toast that I wrote. It was so stupid. And he kept it going. And it ended up being about like skateboarding, BMX. And then there's like a local music scene actually happening. And then so Burnt Toast started like having interviews and stuff with bands. And then Dan started promoting shows, which he was really, really, really good at. Because we figured out that like bands were driving from Minneapolis to Seattle.
Yeah, and they didn't know, with no show in between. So perfect opportunity, right?
And then you'd be like, and it'd be like any band. It didn't matter who it was, could come to Fargo and get. You put like Butt Chuck on the bill, or there was this really great, not great, but like great group of guys. This high school band called Camel Paw from Fargo South. These terrible names.
These are classic. I love it.
Yeah, North Dakota. Yeah. And so if you put Camel Paw on the bill, they were from the huge high school in Fargo that had like 1,500 kids. They would just poster the shit out of the high school. And you would have like a band like Mother's Day from Minneapolis that in Minneapolis might have 50 people come to a show. They come to Fargo and like 400 people come.
Yeah.
Like, it's a line around the block, sold out, middle of winter. And they're just like, what the fuck is what's going on? And then the band on the bill are Butt Chuck and Camel Paw. And it's like, we all thought it was totally normal, like North Dakota, I think is really strange, and it's probably less strange now because people have access to the internet and stuff, but you're on an island and stuff gets filtered. So like even like the Beastie Boys or Nirvana or whatever, it got filtered through like all that snow and isolation to make some pretty weird kids, you know. And then when bands come from town, there's like 300 of these weird kids like going apeshit because they think it's because of their band. It's not, but honestly, it's because there's nothing else.
There's just nothing else to do.
Yeah, and it's $3, and it's 80 degrees inside, and it's minus 20 outside. So yeah, like, but yeah, that's what Hammerhead. They really, and I think one of those guys, probably Paul Erickson, told me that it's always better to be in bands with your friends who can't play than assholes who can, because like you're gonna be in situations where it kind of doesn't matter if the guy can play drums or not, but it really matters if he's a fucking asshole. And when Buttchuck disintegrated because they were moving Hammerhead off, and moving to Minneapolis. I didn't want to move to Minneapolis, and I talked to Dan, and I was like, dude, this is like, we've been buddies forever. You should buy some drums. Let's figure this out,
Right.
And so he bought a drum set off the drummer from Hammerhead, So had they been total dicks to me from the start, I probably wouldn't have even pursued it.
Wow,
I didn't have. I mean, I just wouldn't know. I don't know how do you do it? Like, where do you get a guitar? Like,
Right.
No, I'm not trying to sound stupid, but it never occurred to me that was like that. I would record. Like, I was a consumer and a fan. I wasn't ever thinking I had something important to say. I still don't.
But it's amazing to me, and a few things I want to kind of hit on is that I really what you say resonates big time, that some of the coolest, most interesting bands definitely just come out of isolation. Like the fact that you have to create your own entertainment. There's no other option. And this is especially in the days before you had like Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max or whatever, and all the social media to doom scroll through your day with. That if you wanted to like just not die of boredom necessarily, like you had to create your own entertainment. And then I loved, and something that I think is kind of getting lost, unfortunately, when there would be these sort of petri dishes of different areas in the world where it sounded like nothing else. Like there was nothing that would sound like a Missoula, Montana band, or like a band from like, West Texas or something. You're like, how did you come to this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's something I remembered. We had the Cows come down. So like with Nirvana and the Moose Lodge, like after Nirvana blew up, the Moose Lodge was doing so good. There was this guy who opened it was like a teen dance club or something in Fargo, in the warehouse type thing. It was in a business park. It wasn't like a North Dakota warehouse is like a pole barn. It's not like a concrete building or whatever. And I think it was going to be like a dance club, and then Nirvana happened, so they didn't know what to do with this space because people didn't want to come hear dance music. So Dan, of course, started booking shows there, and we had Cows come down. And I don't know if they had heard about us or what was going on, but they came down and, we were pretty raw. I mean, pretty raw the whole time. We were maybe more disorganized or something. And we sound checked, and I got off the stage after sound checking, and I was walking out to the van or whatever, and Shannon like popped out from behind this pole and grabbed me by the shirt and slammed me up against the wall. And I was like, fuck, that's you know Shannon, right, from the cows.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He just
So
sat in with us.
scared the shit out of me. Slammed me against the wall, and he just starts going, "You're from Texas. You're from Texas. You're from Texas." And I'm like, "Oh man, my mom lives right over there. Like, I'm not from Texas. Like, I don't know what." I was like, "No, my mom's like 4 blocks away. Like, I'm from right here. I'm from right. No, I'm not from Texas." Like, I didn't know what we were arguing about. I talked to him about it years later, and he was like, "No, I'm trying to give you a compliment. Like, your band is weird enough that it could be from Texas," is what he was saying. Like, you guys are so weird. We expect to see that in Texas, not North Dakota.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's such, like,
Just decided to do the
compliment, you know." But at the time, well, and yeah, I mean, Shannon, he had the best move I've ever seen. We were playing with them in Missouri or somewhere, and there was this guy just fucking with him. So Shannon grabs the bottom of his t-shirt and pulls it over Shannon's head, their face, so that Shannon's head goes through the guy's neck hole and is right here, and then just has the microphone. So both their head, like the guy's trying to run away, and Shannon's like stuck to his face. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, I love that because I'm not. Yeah, like we were confrontational, and it's like it was painful to watch us sometimes because it was super loud. But I'm not. I don't want conflict. I'm not confrontational, and so like traveling and playing with the cows was just a treat. It was just, every night was something different. And same with the Melvins, where they just don't take shit. I take shit. Like, I'm fine. I don't care. Like, if you don't like it, it's gonna be over soon. Like, go play pool or whatever. But
close your eyes.
Guys is not. Yeah, I mean, it's like we don't play for very long because we knew we were bumming people out. It's like
right.
We'll play for 15 minutes and stop, but it'll be like
it'll be
minutes worth of sound. Yeah, crammed into 15 minutes.
So you talked earlier about, and first of all, that's amazing, and yeah, all love to cows and Melvins, of course. It goes without saying.
Yeah.
The idea of it being like music you can feel, like you can feel it, right? That generally speaking means volume and pushing air, like larger and larger, as the saying.
Yeah.
Goes, right? And did you have? So when you start up what became godheadSilo, right? You have less people, but
well, we had a guitar player
very early on, right?
Started. Yeah, his name's Phil. He's awesome, super sweet guy. But we had a show booked, and I mean, I say a show. We were playing in somebody's living room or whatever, and
awesome.
Phil had the next day, and Phil didn't want to stay out late, and we were like this may come up more if we talk about all my bands, but from the start, and in my life, if I say I'm gonna do it, I do it.
Yeah.
And when I play music, I'm not fucking around. Like, I might be funny, but I don't fuck around. So like, if you say you're gonna be at practice, you are at practice, because I'm at practice. And didn't want to he couldn't make the show. Dan and I were like, let's see what happens. We'll just play without him. Like, nobody knows the songs. It's not like somebody knows that there's no guitar player. Like, these are, I mean, it just was like, we were terrible, but we had, my wife has told me that I'm going to jump around, sorry, but like that it's like twin speak, how like twins can talk to each other without, So Dan and I have something like that, and we've had since 1985. So the extra guy was going to be trouble anyway. Eventually it would have been nice to have a third person to vote on some stuff that we had to make decisions on, but
Sure, yeah.
it's like music, and it's like, and I also, and Dan, we always worked really hard not to rip anybody off. So like if we had a part that was too much like the Melvins or Hammerhead, we would either like, we were really, because we were like traveling on the same road as these bands, but wanted to, like, at least we hear the difference and we know we put the effort into like
Sure.
figuring out something that hadn't happened yet, right? So Happy Accident, not Happy Phil, right? But for Dan and I, it's, Phil can make it. Dan and I played without him, and then that was it. Like we tried out this guy Owen Murphy, who he came and played guitar with us, and just was weird. Like we had started playing with just two people, we were like, "Oh, this is enough." And
Yeah.
once I started figuring out how to make it loud, which was really expensive, and I caught so much shit.
Really heavy.
Yeah. I had 3 jobs. And I stole all my food from. I worked at a pizza place, and because I didn't have a penny left. Is amps, catch it on fire, amp. Like, why? Oh, why can't I hear all these speakers together? Now I know about ohmage and lows and shit, but I'd be like, oh, I hate solid state. So I'd buy all these huge tube amps and then hook like 615s up to one output. And it would just like catch on fire. And then we're like, oh, there's another Little Caesar paycheck, Yeah. And then he had a show, like I said, I'll jump around, but this kind of ties in, like, that band All came and played in Fargo.
Yeah.
And Dan and I opened for him, and we were still pretty new, but it seemed like the weirder we were, the better people from Fargo liked it, because we were weird in like a North Dakota way.
Yeah.
So I've learned since, like, going back, people attached, like it made sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it made sense to Dan and I, and we would get places where it would not make sense to people, and we'd be like, what don't you get? Like, this is a perfect note or whatever, and they just like, you speaking English? Like it just. Yeah. Anyway, so for All, we had this thing we would do where, like, they're huge band, we're playing at the Elks Lodge, which is like 600 or 800 people. We're like, they don't know shit of Fargo. Let's make them think all the punks in Fargo do this. And on this trip, it was, we all wore blazers and smoked pipes and had these wigs. So when All showed up, like all the cool kids backstage and the opening band, we're all smoking pipes and be like, "Yo, what's up?" They're just walking past us loading equipment, and we're like, "Yo, what's up?" Smoking pipes. And then we'd make up this thing, and it was just said everything was cougar. God, it's just cougar, dude. No, it's just cougar. Like, cougar was cool, cougar was bad, cougar, because we were trying to make it travel, right? So like,
yeah, see if you could meme it out. Yeah.
It was all pen pals and shit like that at the time. It wasn't the internet. So like, maybe All goes to Seattle and they're just like, man, this pizza is cougar. And somebody in Seattle hears them say it's cougar, and the guys in All are like, dude, those blazers and wigs and pipes, that's punk. And then you start, and then they got so mad at us when they found out because we had told them Like Dan's wig was terrible. Like he just looked like shit. And we played, and I think we got through one song before amp caught on fire, and like really caught on fire. And I threw my bass. I remember I had a 20-foot cord, and I threw my bass so high that the jack snapped. So like I threw it over 20 feet in the air. It landed. Amps are just, there's smoke everywhere. Dan had brought us a guitar, and he brings acoustic guitar out and just starts smashing it on the drum set. And his wig fell off. But we had told all that Dan had been in this accident and lost a bunch of his hair. So we were all kind of wearing wigs to support him. And it was, we made them think it was like the serious thing. And when his wig fell off, and they got so mad at us. That is, it was, but so like, so it was weird because like none of us drank alcohol or anything, or we were just bored in North Dakota, with like really active minds, so, and young and full of ideas, and nobody stopping you from implementing those ideas. Like later on, we had to stop, like tone down a little bit, because you can't spend, like we got $100 for that show, and it probably cost me like $800 in amps, but
yeah, it's pricey.
I mean, at the time, and we were saying stuff. I didn't think I would be 50 years old talking about it, but we were like, oh, this is going to be a story. Like, we just want a story. And eventually I ran into, there was another band on that show called My Name, which was touring with All. Mm-hmm. And I ran into one of those guys, and he said, he still had a godheadSilo shirt. And he said, every time I put this on, I just trip out because that show was so fucked up. He said they talked about it for the whole tour. Like both were like, which part of that was real? Which part of that was fake? Do the kids really wear wigs in Fargo and blazers? Like, are really smoking pipes? Was that fake? Yeah. And that's, and we weren't thinking like, oh, making art or whatever. We were like, this is going to be funny. Like, we don't even know what's going to happen, but it's going to be,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Not even interesting. Like, just really, it was just really, really funny. And, we also are not, I mean, we got serious eventually, but we never really took ourselves that seriously. So when you have these bands, like, All is great, but man, they were not cool to us when they showed up. And it's just like, oops. Well, thank you. It's like, you had been super cool when they showed up. I probably would have, maybe we would have let them in on it, but
right. That's the way it is sometimes.
Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of, Dan and I got into a lot of shit like that. One of our slang terms was, Dan started saying Desmet all the time, like DESMET, which I think is the town that Little House on the Prairie takes place in. And Dan would just like, Desmet. That's just Desmet. And people would just be like, what is he even talking about? And then on our first tour with Unwound, we had moved to Olympia, and we were going out with Unwound, and we we're on the interstate at like 2 in the morning, and there's a Desmet exit sign. So we hopped out of the van and chopped it down with this dull hatchet that we kept under the foot. And we showed up. Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was like one guy's on lookout, the other guy's chopping this road sign down, and it wouldn't fit in the van. Because, like, we ended up with like 15 feet of pole with this giant road sign that said Desmet on it.
Yeah.
So the pole had to go between the front seats all the way to the windshield, and we showed up at the house or wherever we were staying with Unwound for the next show, and they're like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, oh, check this out. And we pull this like interstate sign out of the van with like 15 feet of, first show or whatever. So we got weeks and weeks left to have this stupid thing in the van.
And it's just at large. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And they were just like, what? Yeah. So that's when we would do stuff like that. We would, like, if you're just hanging out with your best friend from when you were 15 and other people start thinking your jokes are funny, it's not totally healthy for like normal relationships. So you chop down highway signs when you get to the show and you think your buddy's gonna be like, yeah, man, like, yeah, you chopped it down. Like Dan says this Met all the time. Of course you chopped it down.
Why wouldn't you?
Unwound was just like, yeah. I mean, I still might. I actually have it in the barn. I still have that sign. But yeah, I mean, and that's, I don't know. I know I'm jumping around like crazy, but it's
fine.
Stuff that I remember that I don't ever have anybody to talk to about that hasn't heard it.
So tell me about the Friendship Village EP, that first EP. When you first,
yeah,
that's the first one. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
so
I mean, yeah, song titles don't have much to do with the content of the song, so sometimes I have trouble remembering.
I just remember is the one with the woman that has the okay on her.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't make that art. I found a picture on the floor of a drugstore, I think in Chicago or somewhere.
Nice.
Just like that. And I was like, oh, that's the record cover. Like, oh yeah, like that to me seemed perfect. And then on the back, I think is a card of, they were called spud nuts, which are potatoes made out, or donuts made out of potatoes. That I just thought was a nice picture, made sense. And the Friendship Village, that stuff. What was the deal? So we were playing shows in Fargo and booking shows, and if bands came through, we would on the bill because it just made sense. And
sure.
Trying to think. So Dan booked a Fugazi Nation of Ulysses show.
Nice.
And I was wearing, I don't know if you ever saw that Melvins shirt that said "fuck Melvins" on the front and "louder than Soundgarden" on the back.
Oh my God. Yeah, yes, I did actually see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably like 89 or 90 or maybe 91 or something. But so I was wearing that shirt at the Fugazi show.
Yeah.
And Tim Green, who eventually helped us record and stuff and became really good friends with, he was playing guitar in Nation of Ulysses and just looking at my shirt the whole time.
Trying to figure it out.
And I'm like, yeah, what? Like what? Yeah, what? Like he's mean mugging me, And I was like, what? And he came up to me after the show and he's like, so like you hate the Melvins that much that you made that shirt? Like was super confused by it. Like, no, I got it from the Melvins. Like made it. And then he's like, what is going on here? So he and I became pen pals. And we would send tapes and stuff back and forth to each other from DC. And then Bikini Kill came through with Nation of Ulysses. And we, of course, opened for him. And then Bikini Kill came through again. And Toby, Dan and I were like trying to figure out what to do because was really fun, but it started to seem like we maybe, like we always thought there was another band just like us in the next town over, because we're that isolated.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
It was easy. It was like, yeah, like couldn't you just be a band like that? Like the shit's all equipment's from the 70s. You have had access to it this whole time. You could have just done it. So we just figured there was somebody smarter than us next town over doing the exact same thing, and then bands would come through and be like, "No, you guys are weird. This is really weird. No, yeah, this is not normal."
Nobody is
so
doing
Toby, yeah, that's figured out. So then bands would take us on little tiny trips. So like if they were playing Minneapolis, like Bikini Kill took us, which if you can imagine, it's like
That's amazing.
92 or whatever. That's a good mix, right? To us and Bikini Kill, it made perfect sense. And if you have an open mind, there were people at that show that, like, that's what it clicked. Like both bands, right? It made perfect sense to, and I still know some of the people that were at that show because it was like, I mean, and so Toby was like, "You guys should be on this. My friend has this label, Kill Rock Stars. You should be on Kill Rock Stars." And we're like, "Yeah, okay, well, you know, whatever." I promise he'll put a single on, or put a song on the new comp. I was like, "Right." So Dan and I are like, "All right, we're signed to Kill Rock Stars." Like, we just thought we were done, like we'd made it, you know, and that's a contract. Because the drummer from Bikini Kill says you're on this label that you own. So we went to Minneapolis, recorded in an abandoned church with that guy Owen Murphy, and there are bats flying around. It was nuts. And we did 4-track, and that song is called Nutritious Treat, and that was on Stars Kill Rock. And then they liked it enough, or we were forceful enough, that we decided to move to, like, I don't know. So they had agreed to like do a 7-inch. So those songs were all written in North Dakota. And then by the time we got out there, we were like, let's go. Like, yeah, we're ready to put out this album. Like we have an album's worth of shit. Like we thought we were recruited to come to Olympia to be on this record label, but I don't think anybody really told the record label that was happening. So,
you think that'd be a
luckily
key
it totally worked out. Totally worked out. Like, yeah, here's this band that like 4 of us have ever seen, and they think they're moving here to moving into an established scene, right? Mm-hmm. And we're just jumping ahead of bands in line for Kill Rock Stars. Yeah. So and it ended up working out. Yeah, that record, I know we were just figuring it out. We recorded with this guy Mike Lastra in Portland, and I really rules. I think I'm just that. I love rules, and like, that's one reason the band was so good. It's like I like constraints and like trying to figure out what I can fit in those constraints. And so I never wanted to make a record with overdubs because I didn't want to. I felt like, it sounds really naive now, but I was like, that's lying. Like, you're lying. You can't really make that noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't fully understand what, because it was like, we were getting shit for not having a guitar player when we would play live and people didn't know who we were. That I felt like if there was 2 bass lines on the record at the same time, like, you're lying. Then you need another bass player to make that much, or to make those particular sounds. So we recorded that in the whole thing in a day, I'm sure. Mixed it same day, probably for like $150 or whatever it was. It was awesome. I mean, I don't know. I like the record. I think.
Yeah.
When it's down, really, it sounds terrible. Don't listen to that type of music.
Yeah, it sounds what it is. You know,
I think every record of ours has filler on it, including that one. But I think that song, Friendship Village, is like what I consider the hit or whatever for us, where it's quiet and it's loud. It's really quiet and it's really loud, and like it really like we like doing stuff. People call them hijinx fillers when we play. Like you're
Call what
playing
now?
along quietly. Drink spillers, because when
Drink-
you
Okay.
like when I hit it,
yeah. No, I know
like
what you
when I
mean.
hit it, yeah,
yeah. I get it.
yeah,
It's in the name.
yeah. So we stop counting. Don't count into songs for this first song. We just look at each other and start because we want drinks to like it turned into a thing. Like the bass, the cabinets I was using at the time. Yeah. So like I had 8 12 and 4 15s, and I was in all these like subharmonic frequencies on purpose, and the waves weren't coming together on stage, so like you couldn't really hear like the super low end on stage because the waveforms were so long. They were making the sound 30 feet away from me, but I could hit an E and watch people shit slide down the bar. That was always super fun. Or I could stand in front of it. Like I could stand in front of this one cabinet I had, and I got too close. My vision would go. It would shake my head so much I couldn't see, and but my pants would be moving.
Yeah, you could
Like
feel
I
you like the
couldn't.
cloth move. Yeah.
Yeah, like I couldn't hear the sound, but I could see it, like
Yeah.
moving. The pressure waves were moving my pants. Yeah, that was the best. It's the best. Like
My friend Bob
I'm paying
says
for it now for sure.
he calls that the kill zone is what he calls that.
Yeah, there's stuff now that the they call them sound baths or something. People they go into the woods and have a sound bath.
It's a
I'm
thing.
always like, yeah, like that was me. Yeah,
that was
every night. Loved it. Yeah, loved it. Yeah, I mean, you're making me miss it now. I don't really play anymore, but that's just the best.
What was it?
Not to sound egotistical, but like my sound.
Yeah,
that's me. I love it. It took me a really long time to figure it out, and once I figured it out, I was like, "Oh, I stand in front of it all day. I just love it."
What was it? I think it was Scientific Supercake where there was that that review about it. Like,
oh yeah,
it's gonna literally destroy your speakers or something along those lines.
Yeah,
like
it broke some guys' woofers. Yeah, that wasn't even bass that did that. I was really into making tape loops at the time, so I would cut these super long reel-to-reel loops and have like nails in the ceiling and everything, and have these loops running all over our apartment, and speeding them up and slowing them down. And I think I had all these sound effects records, and one of them had like a boulder scraping on the ground. So I recorded that at 16 RPMs instead of 33, and then made a tape loop of it that went around the house, and then would like manipulate it with my fingers so it's even slower.
Right.
And we were making that record. Oh, I'm just remembering this. So we were mixing it.
I love that.
And everybody got diarrhea. So everybody in the mixing room got sick, but we couldn't hear it. Yeah, because the notes were so low. The guy in the studio was like, look at my woofers. And like we turned around because we were like, everybody's like running to the bathroom and then coming back to mix it because that song's super long too.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that song too, I made a bass just for that one song that had 4 like B strings or like the super fast, like 105s or something. Yeah, and all tuned to the same thing. And then
oh my god,
there is a little riff in that song, I think, but for the most part, like I remember I threw it on the floor and was screaming into the bass. But we figured it out because like woofers were popping on the studio monitors, but you couldn't hear the sound.
Right.
But you could we were all getting sick. So the guy, Mike Lastra, who's awesome dude, he was like, we're below 20 hertz or whatever it makes you, like, will rupture your stomach lining or whatever. Yeah. And then, yeah, but we didn't know about that. Like, I mean, I probably had like read the brown note, but never made myself
by accident. Accidentally discovered it. The dark magic.
Yeah, I mean, we had shit like we played at Jabberjaw in LA one time, and this huge chunk of the ceiling fell down on the crowd just from like the, you know, super fun. You know,
good times.
I don't know how to. It's making me really happy to talk about it because I mean, seriously, like I have a job, I work, I don't talk about it.
Well,
it's fun. Remembering how silly it was.
For a time, you guys were the loudest band that I had ever seen. I later toured the Juicifer, but yeah, like it's godheadSilo is still almost a parody. Then there's another band that I will not name their name because they're not any good, but they definitely had the volume. And I was like, oh, you're trying to do godheadSilo?
Yeah, Juicifer's great.
Not Juicifer. I'm not these other bands.
I mean, and at the time, that just wasn't a thing. You know, like people weren't trying to be loud. Yeah. So that was kind of our thing. But to be loud without being dumb loud. You know?
It was very smart.
Like, no one's get that. Yeah. Well, not even smart, just not dumb. Like, it's not. And like the Melvins get that a lot where people like just this one part of the Melvins or one part of your music, and it's the simplest, most basic part of your music. Yeah. And then you're like, like that's the part we kind of don't.
Yeah, that's like one tiny color in the color spectrum. Yeah, it's like it's exactly.
Yeah,
there's
bands
can that off.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, cool, good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, sometimes disappointing to see what people think your band is about, you know?
Yeah.
Because they're like, want to open for you or whatever, and you're just like, ooh, yeah, that's not what I meant. When you said that. Like, no.
Why?
I'm nice. And, yeah, so that's it. Everybody could go out and buy amps. Like, go buy amps. Be loud. Like, but be loud and original or be loud and good? Probably not anymore. I mean, now it's just the norm to have way bigger stacks than I had, you know?
I think it's more normalized now. I don't know. I feel like it's more normalized now than it used to be. But then also I feel like people are going smaller too. And like that's becoming more normal.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I mean, the Napalm Death, the bass player from Napalm Death doesn't even bring an amp.
Yeah.
But he's got a bass pedal. And he's like, what are you doing? I like amps. And he's like, look on the stage. Those are all amps. Like, it's the PA. Like, you can crank the monitors.
Wire does
like, I can get on airplane. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't. I think I'm, you know, I like it happened to be really heavy equipment to make the sounds that I liked. So
like it should be work. It should be work to get it all on stage and put it together, you know? That way it means a little more.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe.
I say that now because I'm not actively doing it, but if I, next week I'll be like, no, it isn't. That's
right. Important. Oh, I still have all that shit in the barn, and if I have to move the amps around for some reason, it's just, what am I thinking? Like, why do I own this? Why did I ever own it? You know, like so heavy. Just a bunch of boat anchors at this point. Yeah.
My favorite move was like, oh, we've got a basement. Cool. I'll put all the cabs down there, and then like, oh, they need to come back up too.
Yeah. Oh. Heaviest thing in the world. Yeah.
I forgot about that part of it. That was great until then. Hey, the inner capping, the S being capitalized, where did that pop up?
Yeah. Ooh, intercapping. Is that what that's called?
I think that's
If
what that's
there's a-
called.
Cool. I think I was probably ripping off steel pole bathtub, godheadSilo, right? Yeah. And the original logo I had made was people call it like ransom letters. You cut the letter out of it or whatever, and yeah. So I did it like that, and I did it with a capital S. Don't know why. And it kind of stuck, and we got into all this stuff. But Dan's mom didn't like us to have the word God in the band name. I was like, why not? It's Godhead. This means like a really big silo, which I don't know. It doesn't mean anything. And she was like, why can't you have a nice name? Something like Corn. Why can't you just call your band Corn? And Dan like, the fucking idiot would call it band Corn. And like, 10 years later, the biggest band in America is called Corn.
Yeah, well, they're from Bakersfield.
And she wanted us to be and she wanted us to be called I think she wanted us to be called Friends 3 when we were a three-piece. She's like, can't you call yourself Friends 3? You're 3 friends. And we're just like, yeah, no, it's fine. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't know where it was an accident. I personally had a real case of steel bathtub worship at the time.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite bands.
And that first record with the, I mean, talk about untouchable. Yeah, yeah. And that one, the record with Marsha Brady on cover was really like everything about it. Yeah, tape loops. I was using a dictaphone for a really long time because I never saw them play, but I finally figured out that might have been a dictaphone that he was doing his tape loops on. So I would use a dictaphone, and they just like them Hammerhead, and Paul Sanders from Hammerhead is the one who like handed me that record, and he was like, you might want to check, like if you like Hammerhead, you should check this out. And I was just like, oh, like
Dale
that's it. Like
Dale and Mike were very, very patient with me, teaching me all of their dark magics of Radio Shack and thrift store tapes. Like they were very patient with, in a way that like I'm so sorry that I was so annoying. Yeah, because I'm sure I was very annoying.
Yeah, that band, and that's one of those bands where you're like, it's 3 geniuses. Do you know what I mean? Like there's every single one of them untouchable, but like the bass and just swapping singing and the drumming, everything about that band was just perfect to me. So I tried to steal as much as I could out. And I talked to Dale. He actually married an old friend of mine from my high school, which is crazy.
Small world.
Small world. And I met him, and I said, and he's looking at my stuff, and he plays in the band with Zach, who was in Enemymine for a bit. Yeah, dude.
Actually, Zach's
so
been
jealous.
on. Really, Zach has been on this show, but Dale hasn't.
Yeah,
which is very weird. But
yeah,
but yeah,
I'd love to hear Dale talk about families and just the way they thought differently, and you could tell they were from somewhere else.
Yeah,
and you could tell, and like being from North Dakota, you're like, oh, that it makes sense that those 3 guys found each other.
Yeah,
to make that kind of music. But yeah, Dale, we played in Minneapolis, and Dale was looking at my stuff, and he's just like, this doesn't make any sense. Like he's just like in his face, looking at my pedals, and I was like,
it's like scratching his head.
I learned from watching you, Dad. Yeah, I was just, dude, everything. It's all comes from, it's like a lot of it is there can be like parallel progression, you know, the internet.
Yeah.
Before everybody shared everything, you could be parallel, but they were before us, right? So we were super heavily influenced by them, and once we got proficient enough to figure out to stop aping them, we stopped because we were embarrassed.
It's the best
But
kind of influence where you don't
could have
sound like
been-
that you like. You know,
oh
like
yeah,
that's-
well, you're not good enough to like, yeah, you're not good enough to play their songs. Like,
right.
you couldn't sound like them if you wanted. Like, I can't imagine a band that didn't have one of those three sounds to hold that. Like it. Yeah, that's an impossible and rare. Like, that's like Buzz and Dale. You know what I mean? Like, you. That hardly ever happens. That people find each other like that. And I don't put Dan and I in the kind of category of that, but I think we were really lucky to find each other and figure out, like, one of the things we did together was play music, you know?
Yeah. No, and that's, you know, it shows through and through the whole discography. I mean, and there's a through line through it. Like, if you listen to Elephantitis of the Night, for instance, like all that stuff's from, like, I guess the eras weren't that different. It was only a couple of years, but it's like, you know, the progression of from we got from point A to point B is notable. But it also, you know,
that record,
telepathy that happens.
Yeah, there's something. That record is the best. I mean, for me, that one's the best. And for a lot of that stuff, like just the way we wrote lyrics and stuff, we would write them the night before. We never wrote songs with lyrics or lyrics first. So, like Scientific Supercake, we did all the tracking in one day, and then that night we wrote the lyrics to the whole record, basically. And he'd say shit like compared to a phantom, a ghost is a joke. And I'd be like, what the fuck, man? Like, how's your brain work like that? Like, we can make a whole song out of that. And then we did, you know, and it's like, and Dan, and we would do shit like, I would write a line, 2 lines, and flip paper over so he could only see the second line. Then he would write 2 lines and fold it over so I can only see, like that game you play.
Like what Exquisite Corpse, I think is what that is called. If I
something like yeah. So like the first song, the first rock, how those lyrics is like, they kind of don't have anything to do with each other, but every other line, and it was like that's like hyper democratic, you know, where like
absolutely.
I write a line, you write a line, and I just whatever's on the paper, I make it fit, and yeah, and we were still. I think we were still both writing lyrics on that yellow record, the Elephantitis of the Night. That was a thing Dan. I can remember he was walking train tracks. We were hanging out with Harvey Milk in Athens, Georgia. That band, Harvey Milk.
Yeah. Kristen's been on the show.
Had never seen him.
Fantastic.
Yeah, band. So I'd never seen him. You'd never seen him play or anything, but we're like, you need to meet these guys. Like, they are equally weird, you know, like they're trying to connect people. And we were hanging out with Steven Tanner, and Dan had been drinking. I probably had been drinking, and we were walking on these train tracks. And Dan just said, "Oh, what a night. It's got Elephantitis of the Night," you know, and I was like, fuck.
That's amazing.
Dude, that's an album title. Like, it's perfect. Yeah, his brain, like his mind, totally wasted playing drums. Like he is at all the lyrics. Dan came up with them. Like, he's the best, and he's the best partner, best practice partner, best lyric writer. Great equipment loader, strong, can carry heavy shit.
All the things.
Yeah. Yeah, he did catch me on fire one time. We were tour. So when we used to tour early, it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
So we would drive in shifts, and I was sleeping on the bench in the back of the van, and he smoked, and he was smoking while in like 3 a.m, and he goes to flick it out the window, and it just got sucked back onto my sleeping bag. And I'm out. Yeah.
You're asleep.
And
Yeah.
yeah. So I wake up to the van, like doing 70, swerving all over the place with somebody like hitting me because he's trying to put out fire, but he doesn't want to pull the van over. Yeah. And there's a huge hole burnt in the sleeping bag. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's
yeah. It was awesome. I mean, this will take all night if I start telling danger stories.
I mean, hey, it's a good mix of stuff here. This isn't fresh air. You can.
Yeah, I mean, we used to. Yeah, the first couple of tours, we saved up food stamps because we knew we weren't going to make any money, and we bought our shirts in Portland. This Goodwill where you can clothe by the pound. So I would just buy every T-shirt I could find, flip it inside out. Yeah, flip it inside out, print was an ant eating turkey or whatever was my favorite graphic, and print that on there. We didn't have the band name on it, and we'd sell them for $1.
Yeah.
Try to get gas money, and then we would take the food stamps and get a loaf of bread and a pack of meat and just sit in the parking lot. I mean, I don't know, since I know this was coming up. Yeah. So, and I don't know if it's because we were like, oh, we believe in this thing we're doing, like we're, like I think we would have, there's nothing else going on. It was super fun, and being hungry or uncomfortable was totally worth it eventually it wears you out being uncomfortable like that and touring so much, but those first few tours where we were guessing what to do, where to find food, where to sleep. I mean, it was just awesome. I could never do it again.
It's the best thing in the world when it's the best thing in the world, and then when it stops.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have had the experience, but never again. Like, no way. Like,
so tell me a little bit about both that EP that's got the Uriah Heep cover, and then also moving over to Sub Pop.
Yeah. He was kind of what killed our band, actually, because we got way too into Uriah Heep, and we couldn't stop. I mean, we had this Uriah Heep tape. I have a story, but singing was so ridiculous on it.
Oh yeah.
That I can remember we would have to pull over the van because we were both laughing so hard we couldn't drive. Like, it just was wild. Uriah was like this disease that infected both of us, and I wish we had been immunized to it. Like, I don't know how to explain how into it we were. Like, I don't know why it was Uriah Heep, why, but we could not get enough, and it made us try to sound like Uriah Heep. And like I said, we're so bad at playing. Like, we had a really hard time doing covers because I don't know how to play music, and there's nobody to tune to, so I would just tune to myself. So my Eastern, it's whatever sounded right to me. Like,
right,
it wasn't like it was never. Yeah, and so like trying to relearn songs off the record, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't use my pinky, so like I know, and I play on the dots mostly, so it's like if I'm relearning a song, I know it's only 3 fingers and it's probably on the dots, but if I use a tuner, like,
you have no idea because
it's not the right note. Yeah. And every record's different because I never used the tuner. Like, so there's nobody to be in tune with.
I guess that's
So why,
true.
like I'm in tune with myself.
Yeah.
I'm in tune with myself. But not on purpose, like to throw anybody off that wanted to try to cover the band. I didn't understand how tuners work. Like they seemed really complicated to me, and I don't know. Yeah. And when you're super loud, yeah. Sorry. So like and when it's super loud, and you tune like the way tuning was explained to me. I'm like a really visual person, so it's probably somebody in Hammerhead explained to me that you can hear the waves get closer and closer to each other until they're like parallel lines.
Yeah.
And when it's 142 decibels or whatever, like I can see the lines.
Yeah.
So when I would tune at because I could see the sound waves meeting each other and making the same note, and that for how my brain works, that just made more sense to me than
than sitting there and being
like
E.
putting a button and looking for. I mean, you look at those tunes and it's like, those chords or whatever everybody was using.
Yeah.
And I know myself. And I was
looks like a
I'm not
Cylon.
gonna figure that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's not for me. That's too complicated. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, I'm gonna forgot your question.
Yeah. So
Do you remember?
Sub Pop.
Yeah. So your
Yeah.
Your heap is total poison. Don't listen to it if you want your band to stay rad. So
I'm next
Pop,
to
so what happened? Oh, totally. So we toured with. We did a tour with the Melvins, and then we did a tour back to back. So 16 weeks straight with. It was like 2 days off total for for 16 weeks, where we did one with the Melvins and then one with Sebadoh.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, this is the way I remember it. So we had been out with the Melvins, came back to Olympia, and the person to kill rock stars. It's like to me, when you're in a band like ours and the Melvins take you on tour and it's like 35 shows or whatever, that's almost the peak. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like made it. And we got to town, and the person who was doing publicity for Kill Stars at the time was like, "Where you been? We've been trying to get a hold of you." And I said, "We've been on tour with the Melvins. You didn't tell anybody. You didn't want to tell somebody. We're opening for them." Like, we thought we'd make it.
Kind of a big deal.
Then on that trip,
audience.
Yeah. So, then Dan and I are like suffering and working hard and doing the 16 weeks, and thought we should find, like, maybe there's something else for us that, because like when we were on Kill Rock Stars at first, there's like 3 or 4 bands, and then by the time that happened, there's like 15 bands, and it was a real, and I get it, like it's like of the moment. Like that record came out months ago. They're not going to keep promoting that. They're promoting what came out today, right?
Yeah,
so
last week, whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. So no hard feelings or anything, but at that time, so Sebadoh was on Sub Pop. I think they had a lot to do with it, and I think too, like, we work really hard. We're good to have as an opening band because, like, we show up, like, we do our chores, we get out of the way, we always show up, we work hard, we're nice, we don't steal, we don't get wasted,
Yeah.
And if you tour with a band, you end up making friendships that last a lifetime. It's like that shared hardship stuff and along with them really well. And then this other piece of the puzzle was Beck, the really famous singer guy, Beck.
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
He was around at the time. He was around Olympia a bunch.
Oh yeah, he
was
did that
playing the show.
he did that One Foot in the Grave record and the Stereostatic
Yeah,
Soul
yeah,
New.
yeah.
Those two records. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have the shirt that he wore in that video. Like that's my shirt.
Nice.
So anyway, but yeah, this trivia. But so he was walking down the street, and I was like, "Hey, Beck, can you?" Oh, you Mike, what's up? And I was like, "Hey, if you ever need a beatbox, I got you. Like, I'm into it. I can do it." But I'd never actually beatboxed before in my life. Like, I don't know why I said that. And so the next day, he played this sold out show in Olympia, like whatever the Capitol Theater hold, probably 800 people. Yeah, I'm playing. And he called me up on stage. He's like, "As we might, we're gonna do this jam." And I was like, "Shit!" I'd never done it ever in my life. Like, never practiced.
Did you just assume he was
So
like
I did it.
he wasn't gonna like ever call you on it, or like like what?
I don't know. Like at that time, like yeah. I mean, at that time, I'd say yes to anything. I mean, I was up for experiences, and I like, "Hey, Mike, you want to go on tour?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll sell shirts. I don't care. I'll trade them for acid. If you guys, you want me to trade them for acid? Cool. I'll try that acid. That's acid.
Sure.
I'll get on a bus
Right? Why
from
not?
Houston to Olympia on acid." Yeah, it's like, okay, like I would try. I think because like coming out of North Dakota, there's nothing to try. Like there's nothing. Like the experiences got really rote,
Right.
And so I was like, I'm gonna do this. I should try everything. So shit like that, like I'd sit back and it popped in my head like, "Do you ever need a beatbox?" So I got a mean one. And he's like, "Cool, tomorrow. Show up." And I was like, "This is never gonna happen." And then I showed up and it totally fucking happened, and it's terrible. But he was into it because it was, I don't know, it's like sometimes it's hard to find people that don't care how it turns out. They just care that you try. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. And that's
I'm like the opposite.
that's Payback, I think is what that one's called, right? It's like I think it's
Yeah.
on that band EP, if I remember right. I have that somewhere
Well,
behind.
Oh, well, so whatever our song, I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
I know it's on YouTube because I heard it. It's really bad. I didn't know what to do for hi-hat sound, so I just said "suck it," but falsetto. Because I was like, this would be really funny. I'll just say "suck it" instead of making a drum sound.
Right.
That's bad.